No. For just about everything.
Yeah.
Okay, 5:30, stand for the pledge.
I've already said the pledge once.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Jenny David. Here. Craig Scott.
Here.
Brenda Simmons.
Here.
Charlie Wilson.
Here.
Addition. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure I said it. Any additions or corrections to the agenda, commissioners?
Do we need to put the cord on?
He says he's gonna go under public comment.
I sent you an email this morning on the 911 plan.
Yep.
If you wanted to add that tonight, or if you wanted to wait till the next meeting, it sounded, in the email that I got from Jesse, it sounded like the 911 board had already approved it.
We did.
So it's ripe to go if you're willing.
You want to add it?
I say we add it.
How about G,
I haven't heard it, but.
911? Are you okay under public comment?
I'm fine.
You gonna keep it short and sweet?
Yep.
Okay. Any other additions or corrections?
No.
Item 3, public comment.
So my understanding is Tim emailed you all a copy of a graph that I put together. We gathered some data on the Youth Services Center at Brenda's request, just asking some questions about what was the actual savings that we can see in that with the use of that building. We took 6 youth, went back through every expenditure that we had that was related to the use of that building. So court school, Saturday school, therapy, skills building, all of the activities that we use the building for. We totaled up the actual expenditures for those services that we provided, and then paired them with what we would have spent had those youth been in a residential treatment facility. And we specifically chose these youth because these are youth that probably would have been in a facility had we not provided the services locally. So what you can see in that graph is the residential total would have been about 411,000, 412,000 to house those youth during the time that they were receiving services, compared to 52,000, which is what we actually spent to provide the services locally. Keep in mind that 52,000 doesn't reflect the 75% that we got back. So it's actually only 13,000 that we actually realized in cost in that process. One of the key things to look at is it's pretty average between 80 and, or the mid 80s, the cost savings per youth. So just wanted to present that information to you since we gathered it up for Brenda. There's been some concern about that building not being used. Just a couple of things to point out. We do a lot of stuff after hours. So if people are driving by during the day, they might not see things happening there. And also the main entrance for anybody using the building as far as the adults is the back, because that's where the keypad is. So we have a keypad keyed in so that therapists we don't have to exchange keys. So you're not going to necessarily see people parked out front all the time. And we also don't want a big red sign there saying, hey, we've got kids in here right now. So it's okay if it blends in a little bit into the background. So
Questions?
Thanks, Mike.
I don't have any questions. It was nice reading that email though. To see the numbers and the savings and.
yeah, and I think Tim, you included the cost of the building and,
Right.
and all of that
Yeah.
stuff as it went around. So as you're out talking to people, it just.
I know we spent a lot of money on it and a little more money than we thought we were going to. But I gotta say, been thinking about it today. It was, everything worked great because you and the judge worked with us step by step on everything, it was a win-win all the way across the board, a lot of us didn't understand what was going on. You took it in detail and explained it to us. And then, like I say, step by step through construction and through all the processes of getting everything that we needed for it. Everything was explained to us. Everything was laid out for us. Yeah, absolutely great. This is, if we had this from every department, every time we sat down, make life a whole lot easier.
Appreciate that.
And then the savings on top of that. Because that was the whole thing, is to set up this day treatment center to end up in the long run saving money. and it worked.
And providing services locally.
And providing.
And
local service.
keeping those youth
Absolutely.
in the community, oftentimes with their family, getting the services they need.
I'm trying to stop the cycle.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah,
Comments?
the reason I had Michael do that was because received a lot of comments, no one's ever there. What'd you do that billing for? That was a big waste of money. Well, we're coming to find out it's a great savings to us, the county now. So if you're listening out there, it was a great savings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Yep, have a good night.
Appointments, Brian Stein, Building Inspector. Come on up, Mr. Stein. Thanks for coming. We have a copy of the fee schedule on our iPads.
Someplace.
Brian Stein, Building Inspector, Ogemaw County. The reason I'm proposing the fee increase is one is it's sent out for all of us to go over our fees. We haven't had a fee increase in quite a while on the residential side of things.
How long is quite a while?
2009, but it might have been 2011. I got some paper that shows
Long
11.
time.
But for one, we're paying rent now, which we didn't have this fee before. We're paying $12,000 a year for rent for our offices. The BSNA maintenance program, when they go to the iCloud, we're facing quite a bit of money for that. I want to be proactive instead of reactive. And then insurance, I'm tied in with the whole county's insurance for our two vehicles. So I'm paying $5,400 a year for vehicle insurance with a $2,500 comp deductible and a $2,500 collision deductible, which is pretty high for what I'm used to. So I just want to be proactive instead of reactive in our fee schedules. And the demo permits, when I heard, I listened to the meeting and your
Well,
comment.
you know, I just pulled one.
Huh?
I just pulled. one.
Right, but $55 doesn't cover, it's gotta go through our office. We gotta do the paperwork. We got the vehicle, insurance, oil, gas, our hours, time. $55 really doesn't cover the cost for that inspection.
Okay.
So just points out that I would like to point out on why I want to do the increases for what we are. Just so that we stay in line and be able to pay our, so we're not ever in the red. We want to stay in the black. So that's my reasoning.
And you guys have been in the black for quite some time.
I know we have.
Yeah.
But fees are, I see stuff coming up that we still gotta cover, you know, so
How is your balance fund?
the balance fund. He's got
Look
that
on
on
there.
here.
One balance.
You're gonna look on the very first
I
page
don't
of
have
the
that printed out.
handout.
That was in the,
Yeah, I first of all provided an estimate of about how much additional revenue that would bring in based on 2023 numbers. The next block is the net position trend. And because this is an enterprise fund, they use that net position term rather than fund balance. And keeping in mind that net position is not the cash balance. This is like the trucks and everything else that might be tied to that. But just using that cash and cash equivalents, the fund balance was over 100% last year. And then I did want to point out that last table that I put on there just like a half hour ago. I thought, oh, wait a minute, we know that the city of West Branch wants to do their own building permits. So Brian provided me all sorts of data on the types of permits they issue and what the revenue stream was. And you see that now the 2018 to 2023 trend, pulling those building permits out for the last 6 years, that averaged about $19,000 out of the total revenue that the department pulled for building permits. The total revenue was over 293,000. So it's about 6.5% roughly of that revenue stream that would be missing should West Branch go through with that. And I don't know what the status
right,
is.
they're looking just at building, not
Yeah.
plumbing, mechanical, electrical. That's not
Right.
gonna leave.
Yeah,
But I don't
this
know how
is-
long it's gonna take them, because they've been trying for quite a while to get the approval through the state. Then they might deny them, who knows?
So that's hanging out there. So you've got that data to work with too. And just interesting that nearly a similar number to what the increase would pull in just based on the 2023 figures. One that I don't know, you've got permit extension fee at $50. I don't know how many of those.
We don't
Yeah.
really usually issue them, because every time you do an inspection, you add 6 months to it. So the permits can actually stay open for quite a long time.
Yeah, so otherwise, we're just taking the averages, so that give you a rough idea anyway about the revenue that would bring in.
Questions, Commissioner Wiltie?
No, any questions?
Commissioner Scott?
Um, I'm glad you're watching your net position, i.e. fund balance. We've been setting pretty good. You know, I personally, I struggle with how much we pay with taxes and then how much do I have to pay extra? That's just a personal little thing that runs in the back of my head. I pay taxes just like everybody else for services. You know, and
Can I comment on that?
well, let me spout out a couple more sentences.
Okay.
And then, you know, and I just like, I don't know why I have to pay extra all the time for services that I feel are some services are just should be provided because I'm paying for them ahead of time.
But our office isn't tax funded, it's permit funded.
It is. It
Right,
is.
so my property tax that I pay don't fund anybody else's projects. It's the permit funded only.
But
That's how
if the
it's-
permits don't, if for some reason the permits fall off, like in 2020 when COVID hit, they fell off big time. And to say a pandemic could happen again and shut down the country, yes, we know it's possible. But if you ever got to where you were in the red, the county would then support you.
We hope.
Well, as long as I'm here, my vote would probably be that way.
Right, but I would hope that
Cause
managing it and staying out of that would be the best thing.
yeah. Well, at a particular margin, you're running the 100%. I mean, that's really good. You know,
Can I make a comment?
Go ahead.
But currently, our taxpayer, our money we're paying in taxes isn't even funding their department.
I get that.
And it hasn't had an increase in 12 or 13 years. And we understand where costs have gone. I mean, we need to make an increase.
And we're getting more costs because of, like I said, the rent we're paying and things, so I just want to stay ahead of it.
Brian, do you foresee these these costs increase, decreasing the number of permits? I mean, are these, so, and this is residential, not private. Correct?
Yeah,
So,
the commercial is,
I meant commercial, I'm sorry,
right,
versus
we're
residential.
matching the state's current commercial
Rates?
fee schedule.
Okay. Do you see people struggling with these rates? It's not a huge hike, $25, $50.
No, I do not see them struggling with it, and like I said, the cost of the permit cost for the project that they're doing is 0.5% of what their project, I mean, it's the lowest, the cheapest part of their building, portion of the building.
And I'm sure you're gonna hear a little feedback, especially since there hasn't been an increase in such a period of time, but I don't see a problem with these, as long as you can't, you keep an eye on the amount of permits that are being pulled. If people are struggling, that's one thing, then come back to us. But I don't foresee there being an issue.
Right.
I don't think they're an issue, because if they have the money to build their home, they'd be more than willing to get the permit to do that, to make sure everything is kosher. You know, like putting a deck over a well. You don't want that to happen, and sometimes that does happen when people don't get the permit.
And we can reevaluate this if there is an issue, or if you're, I mean, if your net position is continues to grow, we can revisit this if there's an
Right.
issue. Correct?
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Well, but
Oh, go ahead.
thank you for participating
Absolutely.
Yeah,
in the rate,
Conversation.
review.
yeah.
Yeah, we appreciate
Definitely.
that.
Yeah, thank
We
you, Brian.
appreciate that.
Yep.
And also for the data that you give us, I think it's monthly, you're giving us now the number of permits,
Yep.
and that's appreciated as well.
Yep, thanks.
Thanks, Brian.
Yep.
Jeff, I think you're on the phone. Veteran Service Fund Grant?
Can you hear me? Yes, I am on the phone.
Go ahead, sir.
All right, yes, so I was trying to turn the video on and now I can't get the video to work. Anyways, yes, so before you. I believe you've already received it. We're applying for a grant from Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency in the amount of, I believe it's I'm gonna just round it, 66,000 and some change. And we just have to get it before the board approved. There's no matching funds. It's based on, this grant came out back in, I believe, 2018. We've never been eligible for it before, but with all the training we've got done for Jared, we're actually eligible to apply for this grant this year. So we're gonna apply for the grant and try and upgrade some of the facility that we're in right now with the heating, some IT upgrades, and some I can't think of the word I'm looking, but outreach to our veterans, like the coffee hour we're doing now over at the Commission on Aging. That's what we're gonna use the grant for. Just, but we do need one of your signatures. If you have any specific questions, I believe Jarrett may be in the audience there. I didn't see him earlier, but he said he would be there. But anyway, if you have any questions, more than happy to answer them as best I can.
I don't see Jared in the audience, but I think the application that's on here is pretty self-explanatory. Looks like Karen's email's down there as a contact. Yeah,
I have a question.
go ahead.
Hello, Jeff. For this grant, then, is Jared writing this, or do we have someone from outside of the veterans that's assisting on writing this grant?
No, Jarrett wrote this grant up. We ran this grant through some other offices, Dickinson County. We're going along the same general guidelines as we have a guideline from MVAA that we have to follow on the grant. But we got with other organizations, counties who have gotten the grant before and worked through them on that.
Smart.
Excellent.
How long before you hear on this grant?
It's before them right now. They started reviewing the grants as of the 19th. They're gonna let us know if we have to make any changes to it, but we have to have a signed. They understand that of course, we have to run it through our board to get signatures from you, and that didn't happen in time to meet the 19th that they needed the paperwork, but they have no problem with that. They understand that each county's boards meet at different times, and we may not be able to get the signatures for it. We should receive the grant. The fiscal year starts, this is for 2025, fiscal year starts October 1st. Generally, those grants will start coming in around December, 60 days after the fiscal year starts.
Any other questions? Any questions, Commissioner Simmons?
No, I think it's great.
Commissioner Scott?
Yeah, the only thing is when and if it gets here, just bring it to us and we'll accept it. That's another formality.
Commissioner Wiltie?
Yeah, this is good stuff. Good work. I hope we get it.
Thanks, Jeff.
You're welcome. Thank you. Yeah, we just need a signed, I believe, we have to have Jenny sign the paperwork. And then we can send it up, the signed paperwork up to the state.
And do you have that, or do you need me to come in tomorrow?
That would be this, Jeff. Do you need that like immediately, or do you want to wait until the board has a chance to officially act next week?
It's already late.
Oh, Jeff, you're muted.
Thank you. Sorry, I forgot to push the space button. No, I don't need it until your regular board meeting. They understand that this was just a cow meeting. This is just a run through, and then just at your board meeting next week is fine.
Perfect. Thank you. Discussion items, Region 9 Area Agency on 2025 Aging Annual Implementation Plan.
Okay, you see this every year. This is the one for 2025. If you look on page 3 toward the middle, underline the services plan for fiscal year 2025. There's no new services. So this is just a continuation of the services that they provide at Mission on Aging. They do need county board approval on these, and they've asked all of the counties to pass a resolution. So here it is.
We do this every year,
Yes.
exact same thing.
Oh,
Same,
this is
same thing.
NEMSCA.
It is. Yeah, they coordinate all the area agency on
I knew it
aging.
was coming.
Are you on that board, Commissioner?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have anything to add to this?
No, I just think anything they do is great. I mean, they do great things.
They
And
do,
they do what they say they're going to do, and they manage the money very well.
they do. They have a great group, a very dispersed group.
They do.
Can I add something?
Yes,
And also a very important village in August for them, correct?
no, this is NUMSCA, not Commission on Aging.
For Commission on Aging?
Right, it's.
But there is, yes, there is a millage for Commission on Aging that's coming up. Is that coming up in August? Is it
Yes, as a matter of fact.
August? Yeah.
Is there a way that we could get some more detailed information of like kind of on averages of how many people they're serving food a day, some activities and stuff? Because it'd be nice to go to our constituents with some of that information.
I think that's Commissioner Mayhew is on Commission on Aging,
Yeah,
right?
he is.
Yeah.
And they also have a newsletter they put out. A lot of that stuff's already in there. They put one out every month.
What we're talking about right now is NEMSCA, not Commission on, not Ogemaw County
He's
Commission
talking
on
about
Aging.
Commission on Aging, aren't you?
He is,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
but we're talking about
Yeah,
NEMSCA.
yeah. I'm with you guys on that. I just
Okay,
took the opportunity to.
And NEMSCA puts out a newsletter all the time.
yeah, they do. They're very similar. Okay,
And it's free.
MDHHS appointment.
This is a committee that Commissioner Wiltsey's on. They had a member who recently resigned, and they need to have somebody from Ogemaw County to fill that position. They have proposed or nominated Mark Searbrook. Mark filled out the application for appointment form that you see here too, although many of you are already familiar with him. And they have asked that he be appointed to replace, I only know as Jane. I don't know who specifically Jane is.
I thought he was already on this board.
He is on the.
Sabo Valley.
Sabo Valley,
Mental
right?
health.
And this is
This is,
District Health. Right?
Yeah,
District Health Department.
DHHS, yeah.
So right now, it's Commissioner Simmons and Commissioner Mayhew on that board, right?
DHHS?
Right.
Oh, Tim stated it's me.
Yeah, that's a separate.
Oh, I'm sorry.
board.
Yep.
Yeah,
What, I'm thinking of the Health Department.
Yeah, that's
District
yeah,
not,
and that's Health
That's not-
Department. Yeah, that's a
I'm
different. one.
confused now.
Department of Health and Human Services.
Okay, sorry. Jeez.
you're on that one that meets down there by the league fields, aren't you?
Correct, that's what the DHHS building is.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I apologize, Commissioner Wiltsey.
No, you're fine, but no, they
Read
were,
that.
they're looking forward to trying to get Mark on board. It's kind of a last minute thing. Also, we had our meeting last week and we got this news and then I forwarded it to Tim, so. I think Mark would be a good addition and he's willing and wants to be on it, so.
Questions?
How many applications did you have?
We had the nomination that came from DHHS, and this is all we have.
Oh, okay, fine,
It
great.
came right from the director, Kara, over at DHHS.
Yep,
And I forwarded it to Tim.
Okay. Commissioner Scott, do you have anything?
No.
I
I'm
don't see a
fine
problem
with
with this. Is there an expiry? Is this just a one-year term? I guess I didn't look at that.
I will have that ready for you next week. I didn't look at the roster today, but they all have expiration dates, and so this will be just to fill the current term.
Okay. C, MMP Notice of Internal Extension.
Okay, I might have mentioned last week in my report, Commissioner Scott and I went down to Mount Pleasant for a meeting, really to tour their processing facility. But that's where we learned that we were an unknown entity to the state, at least for the material management planning group. So they learned about Ogemaw County that day when we called and said, this is us. Well, what they had done when they distributed all the information to the counties, there's a group of us, in fact, probably more than half the counties, that they assumed the planning agency would be the regional council of governments, in our case, the East Michigan Council of Governments. And so they didn't notify us, they just sent all the paperwork there. And we said, well, no, that's not how we're going to work this. We are our own county and we will do our own signing of the paperwork and so on. So this takes care of the bureaucratic portion of it. It will name the county, it'll name me as the designated planning agency. So all the correspondence will come to me. And we're also asking for an extension to the July 6th deadline for establishing what group we're going to work with. The reason we want to do this is the state's going to require an interlocal agreement between Ogemaw County and the state to meet the guidelines that the state has put together. Unfortunately, those guidelines haven't been established, and we're not going to propose that we just sign a blank agreement with the state and just let them fill in the blanks. So we've been assured by the state that they will have those guidelines done by August. And so we're going to, at the same time, ask for that extension. But the only ones who can ask for that extension are the designated planning agency. So you can see the sort of chasing our tail here a little bit to catch up. The state does have us down now for sure. They've confirmed Commissioner Scott and I are their contacts. The same with the regional planning group in Mount Pleasant. So what this is literally just that, to follow the state's guidelines, name who we need to name, and ask for that extension.
Questions? Commissioner Simmons? Oh, Commissioner Simmons, do you have a question?
So who's the main player? Who's gonna be the overall person where all this stuff goes?
Well, for the county, it's going to come to me. And then, of course, anything that needs approvals like these two actions, I bring to the board. The plan right now, if everything works out, we have 8 counties that are wanting to go together on the planning for our region and would then gain access to using processing facilities in Mount Pleasant. Don't know what that end result is going to be. I have no idea what that program is going to look like at this point, but that's what the plan is all about. Ogemaw County will receive grant money for the next 3 years to do this planning effort. And by proceeding, should this be the direction we choose, we will pool our funds with the other 7 counties to create a regional plan that will meet all of the state's guidelines. And again, this is an economy of scale thing. By pooling our funds, I think we're all going to get a better product in it at the end. But the state's also going to incentivize us with an additional $10,000 for each county that does this. So 8 counties, an additional $80,000 that'll go to the planning process. The group in Mount Pleasant has already suggested that there'll be a percentage, and I think it was 10%, I'm not sure, that would be held back by the host county. So in our case, 10% of the grant money would stay here to help us with anything that we're doing material management planning wise, anything we're doing here. So if we have to host a meeting, and we should go to our townships, particularly the ones that have these transfer stations, as the plan progresses and get them up to date. So if we need to print materials or anything with that or like that, the state grant money can be used for those purposes. There may be other things we want to do with that. There may be maybe a household hazardous waste collection that we want to do. If we decide to do that, these grant monies could be used for those purposes too. Right now, I mean, I'm just grabbing at straws. I have no idea what this is going to look like, but as we go through the process, that will come into better focus, and then we'll have some funds ready to help implement whatever it is that we decide to do.
So you're talking about $6,000,
To the county for 3 years, so
Right.
18,000
right,
plus or minus.
right.
Commissioner Wiltie, did you have something?
Just a couple of things. Does our county recycling chairman have anything to say on this topic?
I was gonna give him a chance. Did you have any I was planning on it.
I more wanted to call him our county recycling chairman, but
Solid waste
on a
committee.
serious note, this past Monday, we up in Roscommon, we had the Northern Michigan Counties Association meeting, which I'm the representative for now. And that's a big topic that we've had last couple months. It was this past Monday, it was fairly a big topic, but next month it's going to be, we're going to have somebody come in and talk about it. And that sounds like especially all the rural counties by far are, collaborating with other counties to try to make this happen. But there's other counties. I don't even know how many counties are represented. I think there's like 20 some, but some of these more rural counties are really struggling with this, these mandates. That's going to cost money, and they have a lot less resources than we do. So it's a topic that I know next month we're going to find out, be talking more about too. So I'll just fill you in if there's any positive information that I can add to it.
Yeah.
Of course, I would talk to you first, Chairman.
Yeah, I mean, is there a collaboration happening to the north of us?
There's a couple counties trying to collaborate with some other counties, but right now there's just a lot of talk going on, it sounds like.
Okay, because that's what Isabella, well, they came here, and talked to us, and I had reservations on that. Just because of the location of Isabella County. Now, I did talk to a guy at Waste Management that, a friend of mine from Waste Management that said that the recycling facility in Saginaw just got a $15 million grant. So I've been trying to contact John Wolverton. He's the manager at Saginaw. And I've been trying to contact him and find out if they are putting together any kind of collaboration. Because my thing is we're sitting on I-75. If we gotta, it isn't that I don't see the counties doing this. I don't see the counties buying trucks and doing this. This will be done by contractors, by whatever garbage company out there. Or if there is a company that just wants to do recycling. But if we designate it goes to a certain place, then our county has to go to that place. And if it's hard enough to travel north and south in the state, but east and west is terrible.
Yes,
And I don't want to put an added cost on to contractors if they have to haul to Isabella County rather than just right down I-75. So
good point.
and Tim and I went and saw the recycling facility there, and I had been at Isabella County Recycling years ago. And of course, Tim even worked in the county. My opinion, they haven't gone very far since the last time I was there. And that's gotta be in excess of 15 years.
Oh,
Yeah, because I have not worked at Waste Management for 12.
yeah,
And I know it was in excess of 15 years that I was there, and they're pretty much doing the same, handling the materials in the same manner.
Aren't they forming a plan though? Didn't they come when they came to us? Didn't they? I mean, they just are looking
Yeah.
at getting a whole new.
Oh, yeah, they told us all about it when we were
Organization.
there, and what kind of expansion they're looking at and
Right.
everything else. Yeah, they're talking about a lot of things, but I gotta tell you personally, with my background in the business,
Mhm.
I wasn't very impressed.
With this deadline though, fastly approaching and all these counties having to have a plan, I mean, if there was other larger areas looking for collaboration, I would have thought that we would have heard something. I mean, especially if it was Saginaw, which is not very far
Right.
away.
I think the biggest thing is as Tim said, the state still hasn't written the rules. This is like the ARPA thing all over again.
yeah.
Here's some money, don't spend it because we haven't made up any rules yet, you know?
But just give us a plan.
And that's what they're saying now is we're giving every county $60,000 to write a plan. But we don't have the rules for the plan you're gonna write.
So all this is that we're looking at agreeing to here is signing is that we're going to form a plan, correct?
Well, and we're not gonna sign anything until if we get this extension probably into August. So if Saginaw happens, we still can jump and go there. We haven't committed on the dotted
To
line to
anything yet.
anybody yet.
Okay.
So, and this is just for the planning component of it as well. It's not the actual collecting of recyclables. This is forming the plan to start doing that. But yeah, this buys us a little bit more time. So if Saginaw is better, then by all means, we should.
And it could be north. I mean,
Yeah.
like
Right, there
Charlie's
could be
talking, it could be Crawford, Otsego, Otsego being Gaylord. Because that being a hub, spokes on the wheel. I don't know. We could be that one of those spokes. I don't know.
So
I
there we-
think this whole thing with the state offering an extension is we haven't written any rules for you, but geez, we'll give you a chance to qualify for an extension. Well, why don't they just come right out and
Give
common
it to
sense
you.
and say, look, we don't have the rules. Everybody's postponed till August.
Yeah.
But they don't do that. They wanna, I don't know. They want to save
You
face.
don't know either, probably.
Of course.
Yeah, they
Keep us
should.
updated. There'll be more to come on that. Certifying officer for
Okay.
housing program.
Their kingdom.
This is a memo that you've got in the material from Leanne Fisher. She is working with the state again down at Mishta, and they require for her to receive the grant funds that we have a certifying officer for Ogemaw County who's a county official. Unfortunately, she asked, why can't I just sign it? I'm right here in the building. It's, well, you're a vendor, you're not an official, but the county. So she's asking that we determine who that certifying officer is. It would, in my world, typically be the chair of the board who would sign the documents, which you're already signing a lot of things anyway when they come through. So it really isn't any different in terms of how we these things now, but they just need something on record stating who that is.
Well, I mean, what in the past, what am I signing from her? Because I've sent a lot of documents for Leanne.
Right, and it is exactly this, and I'm surprised she has to go through it again, but I guess every time there's a new grant, we have to reestablish.
Okay, I
So,
was gonna say, I signed quite a few documents. Questions, comments, suggestions? She's on top of things.
Yes.
There was one time where there was a deadline and I was out on my bike.
I remember that.
She asked from a realtor, something was gonna fall through. That was a
Yeah.
long ways away from any
Yeah.
place.
To run you down.
So anyways, okay. Animal control officer resignation.
I'm just
I
sure-
have one more comment.
I'm sorry.
Is this what you're talking about right here?
Yes,
Housing?
Yeah, but she's saying, you know, unless I'm misinterpreting this wrong, just a minute. Motion from the board will be appreciated to allowed instead of allow me to be your certifying office for the program income projects only to sign required documents by Mishta. So what is that all
okay,
about?
well, I will confirm that with her when she brought this to me. She said she couldn't, Mishta wouldn't recognize her as being that person, but I'll confirm that with her so that when we put the resolution together, we've got the right person named.
She's always on the document. She always signs it.
She does, and usually they have they usually have the, whoever is overseeing the grant sign it and the certifying officer sign it. So it's their internal control type issue so that they know we don't have somebody just signing off on things and sending it in without any knowledge.
Now she's asking to be the board accept her as a certifying officer. That's what I read in this letter. For the program income project, only to sign the requirement.
I'll confirm that with her.
Are you okay with that?
Double trouble.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on that, guys?
No.
Animal control officer resignation. Sheriff, do you have something? I've seen the email. Do you have anything on this? Do you want to come on up?
Yeah, I can. Just as Scott had a job opportunity that he felt he can't pass up, so he's gonna take this job and he's got another 2 week or another week with us, so put his 2 weeks in. So my thought is to open it up to the countywide, see what kind of applicants we get and go from there, bring it to you.
Comments, Commissioner Wiltie?
So what type of activity has Scott had, say like the last 3-4 months? Do we see that activity of?
Sometimes that's incorporated into some of the sheriff reports. I have seen it independent by itself, standalone over the years too.
We haven't received an update in a couple months, but we were receiving them pretty frequently.
Yeah.
How many calls, how many dogs or animals?
just
We even got
incorporate it
pictures.
With our stuff is what we've been doing, so.
He even sent us some pictures before.
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing any activity. It just kind of shows, you know, how much, you know, activity he has and how many dogs he's.
Well, I'll look into that tomorrow.
I think we've quit receiving them. When did he incorporate over to the sheriff's office?
It's been a few years now.
Oh, has it been that long?
Let me check into it tomorrow.
Is this a mandated position?
It is not.
Okay.
How many hours a week was he working?
We budgeted him at 25.
For the summer hours, and then wasn't there a change from summer to winter?
We were flexible on that if he needed to, but I think it's been pretty consistent 25 hours for quite a while, about 1.5 years, I want to say.
He was content with 25.
Mr. Scott, do you have anything?
I think because we're talking our budget, and that's gonna be the topic for the next 3 months, I think we should hold off and reevaluate whether or not we can afford it.
Ooh.
That's my point.
I have a comment.
Please.
Right now, we have a contract, with Animal Control and Humane Society for X amount of dollars. I would wait until, see if we have any funds to even afford to take animals to the animal shelters. Because it was voted down by the public. So if we can't take animals to the animal shelter, probably don't need a non-mandated position of animal control.
Has this county never, previously not had an individual in this position?
Not that I'm aware of. It's a pretty busy appointment for sure, so.
I'm a pretty big advocate of, I understand the cost, but I mean, there's lots of complaints with animals. So I guess who would respond to these calls if there wasn't an animal control officer?
Our road deputies would have to, if it's a dog bite, we'd have to take care of that. Running at large, I don't know.
But my question is this: where do the animals go if we have no money to take the animals anywhere? Because the people voted it down.
They voted down to support the animal shelter.
No, they supported us being able to pay the animal shelter.
They voted that down.
They voted that down.
Correct.
Well, if they don't think we need the money to take animals to the animal shelter,
No, the ballot question was to provide an animal shelter. It wasn't a specific one.
Right.
it wasn't to provide an animal shelter. It was for us to take animals to a animal shelter.
Tim, you want to give
That was
clarification?
not-
I know
It
better.
was, the title of it was for Animal Shelter Services, and I could
And it
actually,
was a county millage, not an animal shelter millage.
Agreed, let him verify this.
right,
It was county millage.
oh, I've got the language here. Look at that. Just
I
like
should
knew
have brought my
what I was
ballot
doing.
ahead with me.
Just listen for a few, Commissioner Simmons.
But I totally agree, we need animal control. I really do. I'm just disappointed that that millage didn't pass, because it's so important.
Was for funding a county animal program services, including sanitary, humane, and efficient animal shelter services. So it was just to pay for the services. It wasn't, for a specific building or a specific entity, but to provide funding to provide those services. And in our resolution, putting that on the ballot, we were recognizing that what we're doing right now, we're stray dogs and we're bringing them over to, a shelter, and the purpose is to, as we were saying, the dollars would follow that dog. So whatever costs there were at the shelter for feeding, sheltering, water, medical care, anything that came up for that dog, that this millage would cover that cost for the animal we brought.
What was the total cost last year for the animal control officer?
I can tell you what the budget is for it.
He's got a brand new vehicle out there. We got a brand new box out there. We spent a lot of money.
Mhm.
That was ARPA money.
I know it was, but we still spent a lot of money.
Yeah, we did.
And that wasn't that long ago to now.
But animal control is a very important position. But if they don't have any place to take the animal,
Well, is there any
they can take it
word,
home.
is there any word since that millage got voted down that shelter, that current shelter that we have a contract with, that is, I understand they came to us, I understand they initiated this. Is there been any word since this millage got voted down that they were not gonna maintain presence, that they were closing?
No, they're not closing. They just can't pay for all of our animals. They
We-
can't pay for the medical, they can't pay, there's a lot of medical into
We
those
pay-
animals.
Contract was for 50.
Yeah, we have a
I think
contract.
we're really close to that, or maybe a little bit over.
But that contract doesn't pay for all the things those animals need. That's the problem. So they're taking that out of their budget. Have a budget where they're getting close to maybe not even existing anymore.
We could go to other counties if we had to with
Sure you could.
We did before.
The total budget for animal control is $45,430. On the wages alone, the total wages is $18,605. You've got other things that would tag on to that, like workers' comp, social security, and so on.
What's the contract for?
Contract.
I don't need to know,
What's that?
probably, I need to know.
7,500.
Right.
Per dog?
That's
That's the 50 dog contract. So now we're at 53. I sent the update. I don't know if it made it to you or not, but at the end of May, we're at 53. So everything over 50 is an additional $50 per dog.
One
That's-
time fee.
That's $150 per dog, unless the bill comes in at 500. Who pays that?
The
The shelter.
the shelter does.
Well, the shelter doesn't have the money.
Well, I'm sorry, but they're the ones that signed a contract with us.
And I
They
understand.
should have known that when they signed it. I mean, if there's cost overage, it's not our fault. They shouldn't have signed it then.
Okay,
That's the cost that they did come back to us. Again, I think the question is this animal control officer position. Are you guys in favor? Of posting this position? Commissioner Wiltie, yes or no, or do you have something to add first?
I would like to see some data on his recent activity, and I'd like to bring this back up for conversation at another meeting.
Commissioner Scott?
Well, first of all, I think Scott did one heck of a great job, and I'm sorry to see him go. But people make decisions on their life, and I don't blame them there. But because this is because it's a change happening, I think we ought to wait and not open the position right now. Let's take a look at our 25 budget and make a decision then. That's just my take on it.
I'm asking Commissioner Simmons.
I think Scott did a wonderful job, matter of fact, right? One of the best animal control officers we've ever had, believe me. But right now, if we have an animal control officer, other facilities are gonna charge us also for taking animals. And they may be charging more than what we're paying, or we can even afford to pay. So just a thought, do we need an animal control guy? We sure do, but we also need a place where they can take the animals. And right now, we may not have one.
I'm surprised there's no funding through the state for this position, grants. I'm just surprised by that, I guess. Has anybody ever looked into that? For animal control?
Not recently, I don't believe, no.
I am in favor of this position. The timing is definitely off. I agree. We're just discussing budgeting and where we're at. I also agree with Commissioner Wiltie, get us some data as far as how many calls, complaints. I think this position is extremely important. We just spent a lot of money supporting that position. Now, the timing, I agree, is off. If we can continue to carry on this conversation and show us some data on it, then bring something back to us, then I think it deserves ongoing conversation. But I agree with you guys right now. Let's just hold off until we get more data, even though I'm a firm advocate of this position.
We'll start that tomorrow. I'll see what I can do with that.
And I agree, Scott's done an amazing job. And he used to give us a lot of information, and it was neat seeing the calls and the pictures and some things that he would send us, and we haven't received anything recently, or at least anything that stuck out, I guess. So,
Fair enough.
did you have an individual in mind for this
Not
position?
at this time, no.
Okay.
Maybe open it up and go from there and see what everybody, we put our heads together.
Tim, do you have an opinion? I didn't ask. You're on.
Well, I echo everything that's been said here. I've had nothing but positive interactions with Scott, and he has some very interesting stories from time to time to share. Everything that's pointed out, very accurate. We did make a major ARPA investment in the vehicle and the box that's on the vehicle. I appreciate the position of the current contract in the shelter, and I expect when that contract is up, we may see, a proposal for higher fees. So I mean, we'll see. That's just our world, but I think it's a very good move to be cautious. Let's get those statistics, and we are a week from tomorrow. Budgets are due from departments, so we're gonna have a real good idea, what that whole picture looks like. So next committee of the whole meeting, we'll be able to, I think, talk a lot more confident about where we are.
You guys good with that?
I'm good.
I just have one comment.
Go ahead.
I guess, but animal control is very important. I'm just disappointed that they didn't pass a millage, so we had the money, the county had the money to take care of these animals at the shelter. So, I mean, they have the building and all the people there, but we need to pay for all the medical, all the food. It should not come out of their budget.
Agreed. Residents are struggling. So I see your point, but it's done.
And I understand, but there's, no guarantees.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Fiscal year 2025 budget cash flow.
Okay, at the budget committee meeting, was that last week or the week before? It was last Friday. We went over, about, I think it was 2.5 hour meeting. I was thinking it's gonna be 45 minutes, but we're quite engaged. Just going over the revenue streams for the county and the general position of the county financially. And we were talking again, and I know you've heard this at least monthly for several months concerning the cash flow of the county and the negative cash. We had a pretty, I would say, spirited conversation about what this meant, as far as having the negative cash, and I say that in quotes, and how we got here and how through the audit each year, we manipulate numbers to show things are better than they really are. But you get from the treasurer every month this negative cash situation. And never mind all the nuance of when we collect taxes and how it ebbs and flows. At the end of last year, we were over $500,000 in the negative when the year ended, when the books were closed. We should be at least at zero. Ideally, we would have a positive cash balance at the end of a year. Now, this isn't something that occurred overnight. It's been literally a couple of decades building to where it is. But one of the things we're going to strive to do with this year's budget is to absolutely stabilize the finances of the county. And we've already talked about cutting expenses, but the cash flow issue is a significant part of that as well. If we still have negative cash at the end of our budget year, we haven't made a whole lot of progress. So, I know Karen's here and can add details to what the negative cash component means. But I think when we left the meeting, we were all pretty committed to this year baking into the budget resolution a solution to the negative cash flow. The elephant in the room is that ARPA fund and what's remaining in there. It certainly would be enough to cover this. But I can tell you right now, there's not enough left in the cash revolving fund to practically do that. That would be a pretty big hit to that fund. We don't have balances in any of the other funds to help alleviate that. And how this occurred is just, as I know you've heard Karen say, robbing Peter to pay Paul over the years, and it's caught up to us. And so we're really committed to getting this resolved, and we wanted to have a conversation tonight with the board about your thoughts about it. I certainly don't want to put anything in front of you you don't want to do, but at the same point, we have to address this in some way. I believe we need to be aggressive about it and get it resolved as soon as we can.
Mr. Simmons, you're on that board.
My comment is, what's going on here is we don't need to manipulate the journal entries. So we're able to be in the positive for these audits. What this would mean is we would have the cash, so we wouldn't be in the negative for these audits. So it'd have us in better standing than we are right now. To take part of that ARPA money, we'd still have funds left over from that ARPA money, but 800-some thousand probably.
Yes.
Yes, $800-some thousand we could still use to work on this building, which needs work. But I would rather see us not have to make those journal entries for one day, so we're not at a negative, and then we put them back the next day than when we are negative. This would eliminate that situation. So that's why I would be for this, and I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong. Treasurer, I think we should do this, because they manipulate it all the time, and the people think we're flush. We're good with money, when in all actuality, we're not. Because they're making all these journal entries and then changing them the next day. I don't want to do that anymore. That's all I have to say.
Commissioner Wiltie, do you have something to add?
Oh, for sure. When I first found out about this journal entry deal, I was completely floored by it. I feel it's not right. I guess, by law, they say they can do it, but it's not the way to do any business. I don't care, small business, medium business, large business. And from the first meeting we were at, where Karen told us our financial position of being the negative 500,000. And we were talking, at that time where our ARPA funds were at, and we know that we need to make commitments to buildings, to utility costs and what have you. I immediately said, I'd like to get rid of the negative cash then. And I've stayed strong with that. I mean, we as a committee made really hard decisions last September. We know we're going to have to continue to do that. We're going to have to make harder decisions this year than last year. And in order to find that financial stability for the county, we have to have a solid base platform. And in order to do that, you've got to get rid of your debt. And we have a $500,000 in debt that we can get rid of right now. We still have, Karen will give us that number, but around $800,000 in ARPA funds, and those funds are making money right now with interest. I just think it's crucial that we make this decision and get this paid off.
Commissioner Scott?
Well, been here 8 years. I've seen all these shenanigans. I've had people tell me right from day one that year after year, I was told that we do not have a spending problem in this county. We have a revenue problem that came from the guy that everybody believed in. And I kept saying, how can that be? We can't make any more money. And of course, we had different entities try to make more money, but it ended up being more cost, and it drive us in the hole even deeper. Then we find out that it's a little bait and switch game that was being played at audit time, and then told that that's completely legal. You can do that. That just common sense tells you it's not. You wouldn't tell your parents that, and the next day, we're just going in the hole deeper and deeper into it. We do not have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. We've been spending more than we got. We've been robbing from Peter to pay Paul. When I first got here, it was tax revolving fund. We can take the interest off the tax revolving fund. We got so far into it that we went beyond the interest. Now we started robbing the principal out of it. We had past treasurer Maggie Robinson testify here in front of our commission 6 years ago, along with Bev Scott, that sat on the commission board, sat as head commissioner, commission chairman for years, explained how they build up the tax revolving fund, why it's in place and everything else. And now we're just stealing from it again. We've been warned from the Treasury Department 5 years ago that we're on their radar. We keep spending too much money. And now it's negotiation year, and everybody that's going to come to that table is going to want more money. And it's just, I just dread the day that the state's going to step in and say, we're going to take over for you. And you guys can come to your meetings and sit over there and not say a word. It's tough. It hasn't happened overnight, but it's a culture that's been here for years. And there's still people living this culture that, oh, you got money, you're still writing checks. You're paying people. That means you got to have money. you know, at home. I mean, I can keep paying with my credit card all the time. Pretty soon they write me a letter and they say, hey, you exceeded your limit.
I think the question is, and
Hey, you get this thing up. We gotta get this back up to zero at least. We gotta do whatever we can, not only to zero our expenditures, but to gain that fund balance. Every entity, every township, all the cities in this county all have fund balances. Not us. We're the only one. We don't have a fund balance.
You talking about the townships?
The townships have fund
They
balances.
do,
The
because
city hasn't.
make them whole.
Okay.
The mayor's here. He can tell you that I was in their meeting, 23% fund balance. We got departments within our county. We just talked to one of them that has a fund balance. Our transit has a fund balance. Everybody's got a fund balance but the county. And we've been told this by the Department of Treasury. You gotta have a fund balance. We're not doing anything about it because it's gonna hurt somebody's feelings.
so I think the question that they're asking is, do you want to take?
I
the
wanna take
remaining-
our ARPA money and I wanna bring us back whole.
Okay, so that was a yes for you.
Well, the ARPA money was basically, that's what it was for. It wasn't just a gift to spend it on anything you want. It was to bring you back to financial because of COVID. That was the little thing.
Losses.
Everybody got to use it.
I'll let you,
for
Karen.
something.
I just want to give my opinions, and then I'll let you speak. Were you done, Commissioner Scott?
Yeah, I'm done.
I don't disagree with fixing this negative cash flow by any means. I don't feel using the ARPA funds is a proper solution. I think it's a quick fix. We don't forget that over the last 4 years, we have used $2 million of ARPA funds to help balance our budget, which has not worked. I think my worry is that we will end up right back where we are over a period of time if we just use this money to fix this negative cash flow. I agree with Commissioner Milty. We've made some really, really tough decisions, some pretty significant cuts. I think more are going to happen, especially with all the millages that got denied, but I don't think, and I'm gonna disagree with you, I don't feel like that's what those ARPA funds were for. I sit on a board with a couple different, with lots of individuals from surrounding, commissioners from surrounding counties. And we've talked about these ARPA funds. And not one of them had said that they've used it to balance their budget. We haven't talked about it in quite a period of time. Most of them have spent theirs. I'm not in favor of using it for this. Am I in favor of fixing this problem? Absolutely. But I'm not in favor of doing it this way. Karen, you got the floor.
Thank you. Let me start by saying and making it clear to the public that the journal entry or the trickery of the books that you see is an adjusting journal entry provided to the county by the auditors to relieve a negative cash situation because it cannot be reported to the state of Michigan in our audit that we have an operating business with negative cash. I just want to make that clear so everyone understands. It is an entry provided to us by the auditors. We are requested to post it for September 30th to eliminate negative cash. We are then instructed to reverse the entry on October 1 to continue operating in a way that we cannot report to the state of Michigan in our audit. That being said, your general fund negative cash as of today is $3,106,858.33. With any business, public or private, you're going to have ebbs and flows in money, and we will see income generated as soon as the tax bills go out July 1st. We will see an influx of cash coming in. But what you need to focus on is that cash balance at September 30th. And last year we were negative $520,488. It is time for us to stabilize this financial situation. We all know this county is in a financial crisis, and I truly believe that our first step in fixing this is to stabilize our financial position and eliminate negative cash. If you were to consider using ARPA funds, your current cash balance in ARPA is $1,293,034.64. If you were to transfer $525,000, which would be a minimum, it would still leave you a balance of $768,034. if you were to give me a little cushion and transfer $550,000, it would still leave you an operating ARPA fund of $743,034, which is a large sum of money to do the changes you wanted to make with the building to start seeing some energy savings and more efficiency in the buildings that the county operates. As Commissioner Scott had mentioned, for several years, the county utilized the revolving fund to balance the budget for decades. The current balance in our revolving fund as of our budget meeting that we had last week was $4,135,163. It took $3 million to pay out our tax settlement this year. If you start tapping any further into the revolving fund, we might as well be on the Titanic at that point. I have no words to describe it. You cannot take any more money out of that revolving fund. And it's time to stabilize this county. And the step number one is financial position, eliminate the negative cash, and this is the year to do it. I know Tim suggested to put that as part of the appropriation adoption for the upcoming fiscal year 24-25. I would like to see this as an individual resolution for this year. So we end September 30th, 2024 flush or with a little cushion. So I don't have to do a journal entry to hide something that we can't report to the state this year.
The $500,000 from last year, and then this upcoming year is the last that we committed of the ARPA funds, correct?
This is the last year that we've committed to put that into the general fund in 25. That's the first year we said, that's it, zero.
And that money has already been transferred for this year.
And I also want to point out, 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, the board did decide that you would wean yourself from the tax revolving fund by 25% each year, which means this is the last year that uses tax revolving fund. The intention going into 25 is that there will be no movement of tax revolving monies either into the general fund, which I think is excellent. You've held firm to that, and you know, we absolutely intend to present a budget that continues that. So that issue hopefully will be put to rest. We're not taking anything from tax revolving fund next year. The cash and the negative cash issue, obviously a separate issue, but I think just as important, you know, in terms of stabilizing the funding for the county. I'm certainly not opposed to doing it before 25, but my entire momentum right now is pushing toward the fiscal year 25 budget and making all of this happen then. If you do it sooner, that's wonderful.
Comment.
Go ahead.
I'd like to see this for resolution next Thursday.
Commissioner Scott, are you in favor of that?
Yeah, and I got just a little bit more.
Go ahead.
Let me agree with you when you say this could be a Band-Aid, and this can't be the only measure we take this year. If this is the only measure we take, then you're absolutely right. This is a Band-Aid and it'll come back and bite us later.
5 years, we'll be right back here.
But we have to go further. We have to make other decisions in this budget year. You can't just do this. This like Headley. If Headley passed, everybody'd be honest saying, oh, you're flush now, you're good. You can give us all the raises you want, all the raises we want, and you're gonna be good. You don't have to do any more. No, we'd have to still do more then. We're gonna have to do more than just this. This just brings the checkbook up to zero.
Step one.
Step one, yes. Phase one, whatever you want to call it. We gotta really look into more. These counties that you're sitting down with talking, I'll bet that every one of them has a fund balance of some sort.
Not negative,
Not negative.
because ours was negative 86,000 at September.
Do they have fund balances?
I haven't had that conversation. I will see them on Friday, so I can come
Well,
back to you.
if they
with
have a
further
fund
information.
balance, then their books are good,
Go ahead.
you know, because that's excess money. And the reserves, that's reserves. So if you got a fund balance, then you're good. You're not going through the process we are. But we've not had a fund balance. We're
There's-
negative fund balance.
They're counties similar to us, so obviously
They are similar.
we have been not practicing best practice. So
And every county is different. Like I know like Roscommon County has millages for a lot of different items. They got a big menu of millages for things that pay for a lot of things. So when they get right down to their general, they have more. Roscommon has a larger assessment value in their property taxes than we do, but their general fund is smaller than ours. We looked at this a couple years ago, but their millages are higher and then all together aggregate their whole budget is more. But they passed millages through the years
I
to pay
understand.
for everything.
And their population approves their millages.
Right,
Ours do
right,
not, but so
right.
you're a yes for on the,
Yes,
are you,
oh,
am I
absolutely.
understanding that?
So,
Commissioner Simmons, are you a yes for Thursday night? Or
I just want to ask, if I'm not mistaken. So cash flow and budget are not the same things, are they?
No, absolutely not.
no.
They're not,
Two separate,
totally separate.
totally separate.
So yes, I am for this, yes.
Okay. Was there, you asked that question, was there anything further on that question?
No, I just know that, the cash flow and the budget are not the same thing.
Correct?
Right.
So I'm for it. And
Okay,
this is going for
so I believe
fund balance.
with 3 yeses, you'll see this on for Thursday. Again, I'm in favor of getting rid of the negative cash flow. I'm just not in favor of utilizing the ARPA funds to do it. And my reasoning behind it is, I think it's just a Band-Aid to a problem that's been going on for years. And my concern is moving forward was we will not make the necessary cuts that unfortunately are gonna have to be made very, very, very soon. So we will see that on for Thursday.
Thank you.
There's no,
911,
okay,
gee,
First thing, I apologize for getting this to you so late. This is a 45-page plan that was put together by the Emergency Dispatch Authority. This is a plan that would update a plan that was last reviewed in 2013. So it's plenty time for them to have looked at this. Foundation of this, as you go through it, it's an awful lot like your rules of procedure for the board on how things are handled. But of course, this is going deeper now. It's talking about which services are tied to 911 and what level of service they provide. And I got to tell you, I'm pretty impressed. It's pretty comprehensive. And I think it's excellent go-to manual. So if there's ever any question about what do we do when, fill in the blank, they've got it answered in here. But a lot of operational things for how the board operates, how the staff interact, what protocol they use on their dispatching. Very well done. What Jesse has asked is that there would be a resolution from the board that would adopt this, and then she will send it to Lansing to complete their statutory requirement for adopted plans. So they would be on file in Lansing. If you want to wait and take some time to read this, I mean, that's certainly understandable. 46 pages is quite a bit. But at the same time, if you feel comfortable with it, if you want to take the weekend and look it over, because what else do we do on our weekends, right? So you may find that adequate, but as you go through this, I think you'll be pretty impressed with the thought that's gone into it. And it's I think speaks well to what we've got going on right in the next room here.
I sit on this board, and we had a meeting via televideo with the state, because the board had some questions about it. We've sent it to them. They sent us back some recommendations. It sounds like this is kind of the direction that the state is headed. We had to make some tweaks to it because in the previous guidelines, there had to be certain individuals sitting on this board. And how I understand it, because I am new to that board, is we don't have those individuals sitting on the board, which is like state police, city police, fire captain or chief. Instead, they're kind of a substation to us. They have their own board. And the current board feels like the decisions that we're making could impact them. They're we don't meet together, but they have meetings as well. So how this is put together with the state is basically covers us as far as who serves on our board. I'm the commissioner that serves on this board. That board, Mr. Krebs is on there. Nancy Heddard is the chairman of it. Will Ingerman's on it. An individual from Mills Township, the supervisor there, Mr. Ryan's on it. And then there's one other individual on that board.
It's from South Branch still on it?
Yes, I can't think of his name. I can see his face. But anyways, that's kind of how I understand this whole new guidelines. Jesse put a lot of time into it. The board, we've been reviewing this and going over this, I'm gonna say for 3+ months. Everybody's given their input. It's the final plan and it kind of covers us as far as how our board is currently functioning. And it sounds like moving forward, that's kind of what the state is going to allow each county to kind of do what they need to do to function. This board has a great fund balance. They are very well run. Questions for me,
I got a question.
please?
So we're sending this in, but the state can also tweak it if they want to see something else into this plan. Is that correct? Is that what you're saying?
We're sending this to the state for final approval.
Oh,
We had a
okay.
meeting with them. Yeah, they gave us some recommendations. We tweaked it and
Oh, okay.
now it's got to.
So the state did give you recommendations? Okay. Okay.
Any other questions? Tim, did you have anything to add to that?
Just know that you want it on Thursday or?
Yeah, I don't.
I think so.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a little bit of time to look through it.
I will too.
Commissioner Scott?
Well, I was involved with the whole writing up the new one, and what you were talking about, those representatives that on the technical advisory committee, the TAC committee.
Yes, that's what it is called. the committee.
And back when we were first talking there, we were hoping that the commissioners at that time, we were hoping that there would be more so I don't want to say civilians, but public on the board rather than elected officials on the board or people of special interest. So it was a person selected from the supervisors and or mayors in each of the commissioners' districts. Commissioners had no part in selecting anybody on that board. It was the supervisors and or mayors in the different districts that were that selected a person in their district. Now the districts have changed, and then that board had to change a little bit because of that, but it didn't happen that totally that way, but it was a good selection of public, of just citizens run board, and I thought that went good, and I'm glad to see that was the case. And it wasn't in that way, by picking one person from each of the commissioners' districts, the whole county was then represented. It wasn't just West Branch area. It wasn't just police.
Right.
It wasn't just fire. It wasn't just township supervisors. You know, it wasn't just township board members. It was somebody, and from all over. Those people up there in Goodar and Rose Township had somebody representing them, you know. Same with, well, Mills was split back then.
Yes.
But it was Mills and Richland and Logan. There was somebody from out there that was on the
It's
board.
Dave Ryman from Mills now, and then Nancy Hundred is from
Right.
Richland and Logan.
Right, yeah.
So
When
it's still-
and then I think Will Ingman was from this, you were part of that, Paul. Was it the city or was he at large?
He's in that large.
He was at large,
Yeah.
yeah.
I had a-
That was yeah, right. That was the one position that was open at large. And Will applied for it, and Paul came in as mayor and with a recommendation because he had done some volunteer work with the city. But I thought that went very well like that.
I enjoy those meetings and I learn something new at every meeting. If you guys look this over, have any questions, Jessie has spent a lot of time on this, and her door is always open. If you ever want to see how it runs back there, she's more than willing to show you around, so.
Yep.
Okay, Commissioner comments? Commissioner Scott, what you have?
Well, it's been an interesting meeting and the information that we got from the courts is just absolutely great. I'm glad to see for the money that we poured into that building that it's paying back now in dividends. That was a very expensive building. I don't think we wouldn't have did it unless ARPA came along. We wouldn't have did that. I don't know where that whole program would have been by now. ARPA did a lot of good things for the county and other counties too, but we used it as a crutch, just like a lot of other counties did too, in one form or another. It wasn't just a windfall of money. No, I've been talking to my townships, going township meetings, just explaining, that, you know, we're budget time and negotiation time, and it's gonna be tough this year. It's gonna be really tough. Even, you know, I told them the can has a lot of dents in it from being kicked down the road, and
Excuse me. Thank you.
we gotta quit doing that. So that's all I got.
Commissioner Wiltie?
Just a few things. Last Saturday, I attended the fly-in. I think I made a comment last week that I was gonna be throwing up sausages. A couple people brought that to my attention. The sausages were delicious and I
They
was
were delicious.
flipping them over. But no, we served over 600 people. It was a beautiful morning. Our airport, I can't say it enough. I could live out there if I could. Great people out there, served over 600 people. We had jets coming in. We had, you know, state police was there, the sheriff's department there, sheriff was there, transit was there, EMS. It's just a beautiful morning. Just makes you really proud to be a resident of Ogemaw County on a morning like that. It was awesome.
By far the
Um,
best one,
It was,
by far the best one
it
that we've
was
had.
The
spectacular.
coffee bots.
A little issue with the coffee, we'll have that fixed next year. This past Monday had EDC meetings, just a couple things I wanna touch base on that. Lucky Steakhouse up there on the hill. They're having a few issues with some materials and stuff. They were hoping to be open in July. There's a few setbacks, but all moving forward there. Pretty cool. West Branch Township on May 16th was officially designated as a redevelopment ready certified community in the state of Michigan. There's only 5 townships in the whole state that have that. So that's definitely gonna help us moving forward with some progression and some items that we're looking to get into with housing and everything else. We had bid packages for the West Branch Commons project are in the final stages of development and should be out to bid in the next couple of weeks. They've been in contact with mason contractors and steel building brick work is repairable and will be fixed. So we'll update on some of the things happening there and the EDC is following and working with. We had a transit meeting today, our transit committee. I can't talk high enough about Commissioner Simmons is on that. We have such a great committee. We're excited that this last push of getting interviews for our transit director position was very successful. Tim's gonna work hard going through them, and on July 1st, we will be setting up interviews for 5 more individuals. So we'll be doing those interviews on July 1st. You know, we talked about the marketing for our millage in August. We're gonna look into putting in some signs. We're getting some pricing on that to put some signs up for the transit millage. That's an important millage. Let's see what else we got out there. Construction on the building's almost done. It's looking really good out there. And then on July 18th, if you guys want to come on out, we have a ribbon cutting ceremony and open house. That's going to be at 10 a.m. There at the new building at the transit.
What day is that on?
So Thursday.
July
morning,
18th.
July 18th.
In the morning. Won't interfere with this meeting.
West Branch Chambers helping us out with that, with the ribbon cutting, and we're looking forward to that. So a lot of good things going on out there. Ridership, you know, we're staying on average anywhere from 150 to 200 county residents a day are using the transit system, so it's being highly used. I just came from an EMS meeting. Paul, the chairman. We also have a millage in August. We did just put a brand new ambulance on the road. That was funded, it was $189,000 for the ambulance, and grant money was $159,000 of that.
Wow.
It's great to see another ambulance on the road because we're having a motor issue with another ambulance, and we do have that equipment millage in August. That's very, very important. So we talked about, what we want to do to highlight that, and they have a pretty strong Facebook, social media presence. They're going to work hard on, and just trying to get it out to the townships as well, the importance of that equipment millage in August. We had some substantial savings in our insurance, which is really rare for this day and age because insurances have typically been going up about 20%. So we saved substantial money. So we were very happy about that. Just a couple more things. I told you guys about that Northern Michigan Counties Association meeting up in Roscommon. It's a great group, it's great collaboration. I told you guys some of the stuff we talked about in recycling, just some of the challenges of the county. One talk's been, of course, the challenges of being able to, be able to keep our county jails open. Next month, we're gonna really pinpoint that. I have a big conversation on that. A lot of counties are struggling with that. High-speed internet, here in the county, we know we have a lot of areas that still are lacking high-speed internet. So we're gonna have some talks on that. Recycling, opiate settlement next month. We're gonna have some good talks to find out what some of these other counties are doing. I think that's it.
Do you have any comments, Commissioner Simmons, any comments? There's just an area for comments. The Commissioner Scott wanted this towards the end of the cow meeting. If any commissioners had some final thoughts. Go
I
ahead.
got lots of thoughts.
Go ahead, Commissioner Simmons.
I went to an airport meeting this morning and it's a go for the runway project. So the engineers the oversight engineers been selected, the contract's been done with them, and also the contract for the actual construction. So and that's supposed to take place in September. So we're pretty excited about that at the airport. Believe me, we are.
Redoing a runway or putting in another one? Resurfacing?
Reconstruction of the runway.
Okay.
Tear out the old one.
So not putting in another one, reconstruction.
In the same place.
Oh, gotcha.
It's a over $2 million project and the local share is $100,000.
Holy smokes.
Yeah,
So the federal government's putting up $2 million.
federal and state, yeah, they're putting up money for this project.
Anything else, Commissioner Simmons?
No, that was a big item for us, believe me.
I don't think I have anything. So, motion to adjourn? Oh, I'm sorry, public comment. Sorry.
Public comment.
Public comment. Any public comment in the room? Public, are you pack it up? Any public comment on
You
the
want to
phone?
make a comment, Doug?
Any public comment on the phone?
Where's mine?
Mom disappeared.
Oh.
Is mom there?
Yeah. Motion to adjourn.
Good night, everyone. Be safe.
We are adjourned.
That's not off the record.